Willem, it is lovely being able to chat with you. You've been farming with your father for the past 4 years, but I understand that's not where your farming journey starts. It goes all the way back, as opposed to when you were helping your father on the farm from a young boy. Vat ons gou deur daai vroeë jare in jou kinderdae, hoe dit gelyk op die plaas.
I think most guys gonna sit here and tell you they started driving tractors when they were 6 and stuff like that. My dad had kind of a different approach. He was more like, if you wanted to farm, if he stands up at 6, if you're not awake, he's going. If you're not there, he's gonna go without you.
Yeah.
So we started later, I think, than most guys. But I think when we started, it wasn't something your father said you must be there or something you must do. It was more you want to be there.
You had a bit of a choice.
Yeah, we had a choice. So I think that's nice. I think it's quite different from most other guys. So my father always said, you don't have to farm one day. If you want to farm and that's what you want to do, then you'll do it and you'll stand up. He'll be there and you'll learn and stuff. So I think that's quite different.
So he also allowed you to sort of choose your own direction.
Definitely. It's like I said, I think it's different from most other guys' approaches. But I think in the end, it made me realize it's what I wanted to do. I'm not doing it because it's my father or something I inherited. It's something I love to do, and that's why I'm doing it.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about your farm. It's based in Herzogsville district in the Free State. Paint us a picture of what exactly it is that you grow there.
Okay, so we do row crop mostly. We're not, we don't have any animals or something like that, so we're row crop based. We do anything that you can grow in a row. So maize, soybeans, sunflowers. We did a little bit of cotton a few years back. It's also droeland. I don't know the English for droeland.
Dry land.
Yeah,
I think.
so it's droeland. So no spraying irrigation or something like that. So it's mostly dependent on the rain. So we do crops that we can do in our area with the rainfall we have and stuff. But we do, like if it grows in a row, we've done it. So we do a lot. My brother does a little bit of hay and stuff like that. But it's more small. It's just for him on the side and stuff. So
So you have siblings. You have a brother
and a sister, both younger than me.
All involved in the farming business, or?
My sister is still at university. He is also on the farm. Yes. Yeah.
So obviously with that sense of freedom that your dad gave you guys, you somehow ended up in America. What led you to America?
Okay, so that was after. So I went to Saltec. I don't know if you guys know. It's a Ambach school in Pretoria, based in Pretoria. It's part of Solidariteit. So I went there, qualified as a millwright, and then I worked on the mines for about 3 or 4 years. Don't quote me on that. It's about 3 or 4 years. And then after my daughter was born, we kind of felt like, okay, we want to go back to the farm, so that kind of started happening. Are we going back to the farm? How's that gonna look? I have my own family now. What's the situation gonna be with us and our family and stuff like that? And then, so just before I went back to the farm, I went to America. Just for me, I wanted to see how they do stuff and for the experience and just to see the different side of agriculture and how they do stuff and what you can do there that we can do here. Just a learning experience. For me, it was a learning experience.
So doing research, I suppose.
Yeah.
And so how long were you working there, and what exactly were you involved in?
5 months. Yeah.
Or 5 months.
Yeah, I was only
Wow.
there. Yeah, yeah, I know they said I was there for a long time, but I think there was a little bit of confusion between the mine working and the America stuff. But yeah,
So 5 months in America, and
Yeah.
that was for research purposes.
yeah, yeah. So I worked for two brothers, great, very great guys. Killebrew Cotton Company. You guys can go Google them. They're like one of the biggest cotton production in the south.
Yeah.
So they do a lot of cotton. We did maize, soybeans. We did a lot of things. But I think the learning thing for me there was not how they do things. It was more about how they organize their stuff, how they run their stuff, how you can the amount of land they work with, the amount of people there is. When they started, him and his brother, they were the only two guys working, and I think they started with 1,000 acres. So they worked 500 hectares,
Sure.
just him and his brother, no one else, just those two guys. So I think that's amazing. It's the experiences of how they do so much with as little people as possible, because labor is expensive in
Yeah.
South Africa. So it makes sense to try and do more with
Yeah.
less people.
I'm quite curious to to find out what are some of the tricks and the information that you learned over there, and how you've sort of started introducing it back here. But maybe let's first look at how your farm is currently set up, the farming setup. How what does that look like?
Okay, so basically it's me and my father. We are working together. My brother is kind of on his own at the moment. But it's, I say on his own, but it's not on his own. He just does more of his own thing, and me and my father do our own thing. So that's kind of how that works. But yeah, it's my father and me run and manage the bigger portion of the farm, and then, like I said, my brother kind of does his own thing. And then yeah, it's hard to explain. I don't really know how to explain it.
Tell me, is there a crop rotation system in place?
Yes,
How
yes,
do
yeah, yeah.
you-
Okay, you
Yeah.
like yeah, okay, that ja, daaroor kan ek praat.
Ja, okay.
Ja, die managing deel is moeilik, maar daaroor kan ek praat. So, about I've been on the farm 4 years now. We've been doing a rotation between corn and soybeans for the last 3 years. It has mostly to do about the climate we have and the amount of rain, because that does influence us a lot. But for the last 3 years, we've just seen we have better yields and better quality maize and stuff if we don't do maize on maize. So we do soybeans and maize, and then the ground that's not as high potential, we do sunflower and some stuff like that.
Yeah.
On that between corn or soybeans.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do that, and it's mostly like I said, corn needs other nutrition than soybeans, and soybeans uses other nutrition than corn. So you have a more balanced thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just works better for us. Yeah.
And then your markets, who are your markets?
No. So we don't. We from the farm to the silos, and we sell the raw product from there. So we don't do any marketing after that. So we just go from the farm to the silos, and we sell the raw product.
Yeah.
As easy as.
Back to America. So you spend 5 months in America. You are working on this farm and learning from these two brothers who are farming together. What is some of the tricks and techniques or lessons that you bring back, and have you started implementing it on your farm here in the Free State?
I think it's when I first got back. Yeah, you have all these big ideas and the stuff you saw and stuff. And I think with time, you kind of realize, all right, this is not going to work for us, and that may work for us and stuff. I think the biggest thing for me was how they divided the work between themselves. So the one brother was more orientated on the harvest and stuff like that, and the other brother was working the ground. What do you need to do to prepare and stuff like that. So I think just how they split the work between them, and it's like the one wasn't messing with the other one's stuff.
System.
Yeah, there was a system. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just, especially when you're in a business where there's families and stuff, me and my brother and my father, and I think most farmers feel the same way. I mean, it's hard to work for a boss, but if your boss eats supper with you at night, it's different. Yeah. So I think it's just how to let everybody do the thing they're good at, and realizing, all right, this guy does this and this guy does that, and just sticking with that. And if it works for you, just do that. Yeah.
Oor 'n tydperk van 'n seisoen, hoeveel keer trap julle op mekaar se tone?
Dit gisteroggend.
So recently.
Ja, nee, so ja, gisteroggend. So ek bedoel, is moeilik.
I suppose it's part of business, right?
I think the thing I can say about that is, you're not the same person. So you're gonna disagree. So disagree now, 5 minutes later, work together. Don't take it personally in the moment. Move on, work together. Me and my father are quite good like that. We can disagree now, and 5 minutes later we like nothing happened, and then everybody else is mad at us.
That's quite important for me, because there's a lot of families in the agricultural sector that work together, and oftentimes they don't know how to separate the business side with the family side, and so there's a lot of head butting. So what is
No, like you say, separate the business and the family side. I think you don't separate it. I think it's a family business. It's in the word sticks together. It's family business. So everybody needs to be there, and needs to be. The decision can be like in our situation. The final decision is kind of my father's, but there must be a way in from the people in the family, the mother, your brother, your sister, if she is there.
collaboration?
Yeah, it's a collaboration, but it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be a collaboration in the sense of everybody has an equal vote. There must be a guy that makes the decision, and he needs to be able to listen to the inputs from the other guys and take that into consideration. So that's it comes down to leadership. And yeah, I think my father is an excellent leader.
Yeah.
I think he's an amazing person. I mean, he always says, I always say, we wouldn't do what we do today if it wasn't for him. And he will always say, just after that, he will say, you wouldn't do today what you do today if it wasn't for your grandfather. So yeah, I think it's nice to have that respect, and that just, yeah, but trust the guy, the leader. Everybody needs to weigh in. That there needs to be an open relationship and a communication about everything: finances, tractors, buying stuff, not buying stuff.
And I wanna talk a bit later about finances and how you guys approach decision making about those sorts of things. Your motto is back to basics. What does that mean to you, and how does that reflect in how the farm is managed?
Okay, yeah. So the back to basic thing was when I was filling in the stuff for Vrystaat Landbou Jong Boer. I was sitting there and they're asking us questions about systems and what did you do that changed the farm and stuff like that. And the only thing I could think of there was this rugby coach we had in school. And then when he was coaching, he was always like, boys, back to basics, back to just do the little things right, and the rest of the stuff will come. Just focus. If you're a prop, you're there to scrum, you're there to in the line outs, do your job, and the other stuff will fall in place. Don't focus on the other stuff. And when I was sitting and writing the stuff for the Vrystaat Landbou stuff, the whole time when they're asking what new stuff did you bring in and stuff like that, the only thing I was thinking was we just focus on the little stuff. The way we farm is the way my father has been farming for 25 years. Not exactly the same stuff. Small stuff has changed, but we do the basic stuff, and if we do everything we can, the harvest will be there. Yeah. So it's all it means. It's just when I was sitting and writing it, is the only thing that came to mind was just that's the whole thing. The premise of how we work is just do the small thing right.
And I suppose it also makes one remember that what works for farmer A doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for farmer B and C.
The back to basic stuff was also kind of, there's, if you see the amount of money that is spent in agriculture, in technology, and new stuff every year. You can wear it here today at Nampo. There's a million new things that guys said works better than the stuff that worked last year. So the thing is, you can't change every year. You need to find, like you said, what works for you. Stick to that. If it works for you and it doesn't work for the guy next to you, it doesn't matter. It's just stay with the stuff that works for you. Yeah. So yeah.
In your own words, you said that the current system you have, that werk vir julle, it works for you. But you also believe that it's important to learn from past mistakes and to stay up to date with modern practices. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you've made on the farm that might have cost you a couple of $1,000, and what were the lessons that you learned from that?
I think it's a hard question, because you kind of forget and you move on and stuff. But I think when we started doing soybeans, we kind of went into it with the mentality of, we've been planting corn for many years now, and how much harder can it be to do that? So I think underestimating the first year, especially underestimating the change between the two crops was kind of I don't think we did bad, but that first year from planting soybeans to the second year, there was a large learning curve. We adjusted a lot of stuff, and we made a lot of mistakes. Even in harvesting, in planting, there was a lot of stuff that needed to change, and we kind of went into it like, that thing from like, how hard can it be, So I think that overestimating your own skill level.
Yeah. And you're not alone in that. I would imagine that many farmers make the same mistakes, where you expand into a different crop and you sort of underestimate the strategy that goes into making sure that the crop that you're now planting is actually successful when it comes time to harvest.
Yeah, no, like I said, there was an exponential growth from the first to the second year. Now we're in our fourth season now, and just speed of planting, depth, the amount, die stand, ek weet nie wat dit in Engels is nie, plantjies per hectare. We made so much changes, and I think the little things like the amount of fertilizer and that, it's staying the same. Like the basics were there. It's just the smaller stuff, the things that we saw didn't make a difference. We canceled that out and tried just to stick with, keep it as simple as possible, and don't try to do a million other things. Just do the things that we saw worked. Yeah, so yeah, that
Back
I
to
think
basics.
that, yeah, back to basics.
Back to
Yeah, you see, it kind of, I feel it always comes back to that thing for me. It's just do the little things right. If the rest, I mean, a lot of things can happen. I think this year was a great example. From we had no rain, and then we went from no rain to extreme flooding. So you can't control that stuff. It's gonna happen. Just make sure the stuff you could manage it in such a way that the external stuff doesn't make that big of a difference.
That's powerful. You talk about, one moment struggling or fighting drought, and then the next moment is fighting flooding.
Yeah.
Natuurlijk is daar baie dinge wat boere s'nags wakker hou. As 'n jong boer, wat hou vir jou wakker?
Nee, ek slaap nie. Nee. Nee, ek gaan hierdie in Afrikaans vir my vrou strooptyd en planttyd. Sy het so siening van, she tells everybody she's married, but for 6 months of the year she doesn't have a husband. Yeah, so no, I don't sleep very well. Especially harvesting, not so much. Planting, I don't sleep.
Wat is dit? Wat is dit? Is dit omdat jy bekommerd is dat jy nie genoeg gaan oes nie? Wat is dit omtrent daai tyd wat vir jou slapelose nagte gee?
Ek kan nie, ek kan dit nie vir jou ek weet nie hoe om dit vir iemand te beskryf nie. Is 'n ou wat plant sal altyd vir jou, hy sal vir jou sê, ek weet nie, hulle sê altyd daarsoos die plantheid het nog nie begin as daar so 3 ouens nog nie in John Deere hulle toys uit die kot uit gegooi het nie, jy weet. Dis nie net jy nie. Ek dink baie mense maak daai ding van ook is dit gaan net sleg by jou, verstaan? Maar ek dink dis wat ek het dit op by die jong boer ook sê. Ek dink dis wat die jong boer ding nice gemaak het vir my, wat ek nou ingeskryf het en so aan. Ek dink is as jy met die ander ouens praat ook, verstaan, is jy dink altyd, yes jongen, dit kan nie so sleg gaan by die ander ouens nie, verstaan? En dan kom jy daar so en jy praat bietjie met die ouens en dan dink jy myself, okay, ek hoop nie dit gaan so sleg by my soos wat by daai ou gaan, jy weet. So ek dink dis moeilik. Ek dink ouens moet met mekaar praat en daai community help maar ek dink almal wat plant al ooit in sy lewe geplant het, gaan vir jou sê hy slaap nie as dit plant het. As dit die 25de Desember is en dit nog nie 'n druppel gereën in die Vrystaat nie, en die 25de Desember reën dit 100 mm. Ek kan vir jou beloof, 90% van die ouens wat van my streek afkom, die 26ste sit daai ou op 'n planter en kyk dat hy plant dit wat hy kan plant.
Ja.
So ja, ek bedoel, ek dink almal het dieselfde druk. Dis maar net ou slaap nie. Ek slaap nie. Ek kan maklik 100 raak. Ek lyk 45.
From your perspective, how do you see agriculture in South Africa evolving in the next 10, 20 years? Maybe with that said, your wish list for agriculture in the next 10, 20 years.
I think 20 years is a little bit of a short time. I don't think realistically that much will change in the next 20 years. I'm not saying it won't. I just think if you take agriculture as a whole and where we are today, maybe in the next 50 years, it's going to look different than it looks today. But I think the hope is more, I don't know, better, just a better cultivar, ek weet nie wat cultivar, yeah, better cultivars, stuff that helps us with the smaller stuff. I know we did a proof now about Agricol Intacta. It's a soybean that's bolworm bestand. So that was nice. I mean, I know that stuff takes time, but I mean, it makes a big difference in our region if you don't need to spray for worms and stuff. So yeah, I don't know how much could change. I'm looking forward to seeing how much change, but I think it's hard to speculate. I think stuff in the past 50 years, I mean, our region especially, it's more sand and stuff. So guys started ripping and doing bigger tractors, bigger implements, better ripping and stuff like that, and went away from plowing and stuff like that, which made, I mean, we wouldn't be row crop farmers today if that didn't happen. So I mean, I don't think anybody ever thought that will happen. So I think it's hard to answer the question, but yeah, I think where we are now is, I think people like to look at the future, but I think where we are now is quite good. I think there's been a lot of development and a lot of changes, and I think most of it was for the better. So yeah, I'm positive to see what will come. Yeah.
So if I hear you correctly, you're looking forward to a lot of innovation from a technology point of view, and also the cultivars that we see coming out in the market.
Yeah. I think that's where the big thing is, and I think if more people, like Nampo is also a nice example. If people come here and they look at the tractors and the stuff, but actually you need to go to the tent where they have the maize and the soybeans and stuff, and you need to go chat with that guys, and you chat with that guys. I'm talking like somebody that maybe comes from Pretoria through for the day, come looks at this stuff. He needs to go to that section also and look there and chat to those guys, because it's nice. The shiny stuff is nice, and it's nice to see the big tractors and stuff. But I don't think that's all it's about. It should be about how we can improve the stuff we're doing now, and what did they do in the last year and stuff like that. I think guys need to spend time there, because it's gonna help you understand the struggle farmers do have, and how bad stuff could have been. If something else happened, how bad could it have been? And I mean, we all need to eat. so yeah, I think it makes a difference if you know where it comes from.
For a farmer that is listening and watching this conversation right now, and they might want to get to the level of farming or the scale of farming that you operate on.
Then yeah, actually that's it. Yeah. So
what is your advice for that new guy that's entering the space and they're looking to grow?
So weet jy, dis moeilik. Ek gaan vir hom sê is moeilik. Dis die eerlikheid, verstaan? Dis die waarheid. Dis moeilik. Dis hard en is taai, en jy kompeteer met ouens wat dit al baie jare doen. Verstaan? Dis ek kan nie vir jou sê hoe competitive is dit eintlik nie. Maar probeer. Jy kan niks anders te doen as probeer. Verstaan? Is ek het al van ouens gehoor, dan begin hulle die eerste jaar val hulle op hulle gesig neer en is 'n totale gemors, en in die tweede jaar uit daai bietjie leer uit, en so aan in die tweede jaar dan betaal hy ou sy plaas en uit 'n oes gehad, en verstaan, so dis moeilik. Ek dink dis moeilik om daar te wees, maar ek het regtig nie, ek is nie 'n fantastiese boer nie, ek doen niks spesiaals nie, verstaan, ek dink, wil nie hê mense moet dit dink, daar's niks wat ek doen is spesiaal nie, niks wat ek doen kan die ou langs my nie doen nie, dis, verstaan, is nothing makes me special. It's just I had a lot of good opportunities that I used, and sometimes a little bit of luck, it's a combination of stuff, and then hard working. I mean, yeah, luck, good opportunity and a lot of hard work. It's the only thing that makes the difference between the guy that makes it and the guy that doesn't make it. But hard work makes up for a lot. Working hard makes up for a lot of stuff. Yeah.
May that luck and that hard work continue to follow you in the future as you hopefully expand and increase and level up your farming business. It was definitely lovely having this conversation with you. Lovely meeting you, Jade.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much.